been like a year and a half since this, maybe a little longer. And the moment I wish I could go back to a lot more is just like that feeling of like looking in the mirror after this trip was over. Well, not over, but I was on like the end slide. I think just the feeling of not really worrying too much about what was going on outside of that moment, and just the fact that I existed, I was happy. I loved myself because of that. I found out about the magical mushroom experience in San Jose del Pacifico from a friend of mine, Steven. He'd gone there about a year or two before and went to this magical small town in the mountains where he did mushrooms. I mentioned it on my arrival to Oaxaca to a friend of mine that I met and was like, hey, I heard about this experience in San Jose. I've never done this before. Sounds pretty interesting. It's something I'd like to try. So we hopped on a bus and headed to San Jose del Pacifico to try out to do mushrooms. Man, I feel like I'm in a therapy session now. Let me tell you about the town a little bit first, because that'll give you an idea of like what this place is like in the vibe. So it takes you around 2 hours of driving in kind of an uncomfortable minibus where everyone gets pretty car sick, and they have bags for tourists to throw up in because it's so windy through the mountains. So by the time you get there, you're usually pretty wrecked from being car sick. But you arrive and it's very like higher up in the mountains. It's pretty cool and chilly. There's like clouds that are sitting pretty low around the mountain. And you walk up to this place called Las Cabañas, and that's where most people stay. It's got very beautiful views when the clouds kind of dissipates for a while. All around town, you just see like decorations celebrating like magic mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms. And it's just such a quiet place. Like you can hear like animals or like a rooster from across the village in this mountain. So we stayed there the first night, woke up the next day. We had gone on a hike beforehand to kind of explore, found this like really cool spot, came back down, bought the mushrooms, took them. The taste wasn't spectacular and started hiking back up to this viewpoint that we had found, and didn't really notice much of anything at first, but then they started kicking in, and you're walking through this like dense like forest jungle almost, and just the vibrancy of the colors kind of changed. Everything became a lot more green, and I was just ecstatic. I was happy as hell. I was really enjoying myself. I probably would not, I don't think my girlfriend now, we weren't dating at the time, she was with, and I'm pretty sure I just would not shut up. I just kept talking, and was just really like, felt very much at peace. I wasn't talking to like anxiously or anything. It was just more of like a relaxing, sharing all these things I was perceiving in the world. And I just felt a lot of compassion and love for everyone around me and myself. There was this one moment when we made it to the viewpoint that we sat there and we were listening to some music and no one was saying a word, just vibing. And we were listening to like Way Down Below by Calio, and there's a point where like in the song where like the bass kind of drops a little bit. And when the bass dropped in this moment, the clouds kind of opened up a bit and like the sun lit up the mountain. And it was just like, what? What just happened? It was probably way more dramatic in that state of mind than what actually happened in real life. But it was pretty sick. And, we went back down, went to our rooms to kind of like get ready for dinner. And then I just remember looking in the mirror and being like, just feeling a lot of like self-love and caring for myself a lot of acceptance. It was a very strong feeling that I haven't always felt my whole life. And sometimes I wish I could tap into that on demand. And I feel like a lot of people would be much happier if they could have that feeling often as well. Then randomly ran into some people I had met, and they were also having a trip as well, and we all went to this, the only like fancy restaurant in town. And I just remember going there and having like the best meal, and we were all just like laughing and having an amazing time. Everything in there was decorated, celebrating the magic mushroom. Everybody in there had taken mushrooms earlier in the day, so it was just a very positive environment overall. It was definitely a very impactful experience for me. I don't know if I've shared this with anyone. I didn't make any social media announcement or anything like that, but shortly after that period of time, I stopped eating meat, and I haven't really drank any alcohol since then. It's been like a year and a half since this, maybe a little longer, and I think that the moment I wish I could go back to a lot more is just like that feeling of like looking in the mirror after this trip was over, well, not over, but I was on like the end slide. I think just the feeling of not really worrying too much about what was going on outside of that moment, and just the fact that I existed, I was happy about that. I loved myself because of that. I don't think that like giving up meat or alcohol had anything to really do with the trip itself, but I think it made me much more aware of what was good for me and what wasn't. And I just really, I never really enjoyed being hungover. I felt like that was just not something I wanted to continue experiencing. So it was an easy decision after that, because if you care about yourself, you're not going to do anything to hurt yourself. And then with the meat, it was like I had been dealing with some stomach issues, and I felt like just doing something to like also take care of myself, and then also like maybe I felt a little more connected to the rest of the world. So it felt kind of strange to kill something and eat it in comparison to before, where I don't think I really thought about it that much. It was just kind of something I did. I think the reason that I had such a good experience was the people I was with. If you don't really enjoy your company that much, or they're new people, it's just like an unknown environment, maybe don't do it. And also, if you're dealing with like some traumatic things, it's probably not the right place to do it with strangers. I would probably just say don't. Then I think I've always done a lot of self-work and faced a lot of things throughout my life, and it was not a bad experience for me, but I could see a lot of other people having a much different experience. This was my very honest experience of going to San Jose del Pacifico. I hope that you were able to take something away. That's all for today's video. I'll see you next time. Ciao.